Good afternoon, my friends, and welcome to another episode of Try Bonsai. It's your boy, Bana, and what I'm working on today, I'm going to repot this fellow here. This nice, old, mature fellow. Now, this is Gmelina, or otherwise known as parrot's beak, right? I'm going to do a repot on this into, obviously, a new pot, giving it a fresh batch of soil, and let's see how it goes. Now, when I originally got this, I got this little while ago. When I say a little while ago, not an entire year, but I got this from my friend Errol, and I did some cutting back to some branches that were a little bit unwanted. So, what we're gonna do today is repot, and I'm thinking this might be the front of it. And in the repot, we're also going to prune off a few dead bits, and let's see if this new batch of soil reinvigorates this nice piece of material into becoming something very glorious. Right? So before I start, I'm going to give you a closer view on it, and then we're going to get to it, because as you know, when I do work on an afternoon, it does get dark fast. So let me just go. Okay, so I'm bringing you in closer, as I said, and this is the root base, which is nice. It has some nabari, some flair to it, you know, and as I go around, just on the root base, just to show you, it's a nice kind of a root base, and it comes up zigzaggy and nice, with a lot of character, some nice taper, and a pretty decent structure that wants to happen. Now, this is a branch that I'm wondering about, and I'm wondering if I need this branch. That is something to contemplate. So if I follow the trunk line, I could keep going up, but there is a bit of weight that is happening, to the top here. As you can see, there is this smaller branch veering off here, and this thicker branch, it splits. And let me see if I can give you a better view on it. Sorry for the constant movement, but as you can see, it splits. So there is some contemplation to be had where this is concerned. If I need to remove anything, and what, if anything, am I going to remove? Yeah. Moving quickly, this is the secondary branch coming off here, making it almost like a twin trunk. And this comes up in a zigzaggy pattern as well, with this little branch here, and it comes up here with these branches here that were cut. So the thing with this is that something could be encouraged to be grown right here, you know, creating something of a pad here. And if that is happening here, then this, my friends, would get in the way of that. It'll be too distracting. So those are things to contemplate. But first things first, what's the first thing first, boy? Let me do some pruning first, and then let's get to repotting. Quick, fast, and in a hot hurry. As I mentioned, this is the biggest eyesore that I have right now. This branch. And if I remove this branch, then it would encourage, or I would want to encourage, an apex being created here. But then I'll have to pick. So, because I don't know, to be honest, if I take this off and I leave this here, this is too much of a 90-degree angle. This is way too straight for me. Look at that. So what I'm thinking is that I'm going to take this off, and then I'm going to take a look at this. And what I'm also going to do quickly is clean up any old cut points that I've healed over. Yeah, so first things first, I'm going to cut this back here. And that frees up this space nicely. As I turn around, I'm going to kind of give it a little cleanup. So I adjusted the angle again to show you something here. And I have kind of a tough decision to make. Because if this be the front here, it comes up and there's this smaller branch here. And there's a little fellow growing here, right? Good. But we have a lot of people happening to the back here. There's a very thick branch veering off. And I think I want to take this off here and encourage this happening up here. Phew. I think I want to do that, William. Oh my, because this branch is not adding any value. This is not giving me that apex that I want. So, and I'm sorry for turning the table so often. But I think if I take this off, but gradually, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this off gradually, hoping that I force it to backbud and give me more options inside here. So that's the plan. I'm going to take this back gradually. So there are two branches, one on the underneath, one on top. But there is a little lead coming out here. So I'm going to take this back to this point here. So, right. Let me get this guy. So I took that back to that point there. And let's see if I get anything to shoot backward, to backbud, giving me more options. So that this is not the only guy that I'm concentrating on or I'm reliant on to build an apex. As it relates to this fellow, he is also not really adding any great amount of value. So I'm wondering, I'm going to cut him back shorter, removing that, and let's see if anything could be created from those cuts. I hope something is created from those cuts, to be very honest. Does this branch make any sense? I don't think so, but I'm going to leave it for now. This down to the bottom here, and I don't know if you're seeing that. Let me see what you're seeing. Yeah, man, you could see it. This down to the bottom here is not adding any value, so I'm going to remove him. He is removed, and this is what I could also remove this, clearing up that space. Opening up, let me step back and look at it. If I remove this, would I be causing any problems? I don't think so. I don't know. Okay. You know what? While I'm thinking about it, let me leave it for now. What I'm going to do, guys, quick, fast, and in a hot hurry, as I said, let's get this fellow out of this pot and get it potted up into another pot. Yeah? This soil that it is in seems to be very gravelly, which is good. And I'm going to get this out as quickly as I can. Look at the roots, see if there's anything that we want to remove. There'll probably be some things that we want to remove and do a bit of root work and get it into another pot. So that is the action. Going into it, yes. Unfortunately, my friends, I had to break the pot because it was really stuck in there. Really stuck in there. So I had to break the pot. Well, it's an old pot, so no stress. But look at that. Wow. So I'm not gonna talk much. I'm just gonna get it because I need to get some of the soil loose, and then I need to remove some of these circling roots, if not all of these circling roots, and try to create a nice feeder root system, a nice radial rooting system. So let me get to it. Alright, so I'm encountering a bit of a, I don't want to call it an issue, but there's a little bit of an issue. There are a lot of circling roots, as you could see, but there are two massive roots here, and I'm trying to find the originating point. This is originating from here, and it comes around, and here is the troublesome thing. I don't want to just arbitrarily cut it because I don't know if that is the entire root system altogether. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wash this out and see what I could take away from what I can't take away, and try to recreate a new. I killed the earthworm, tore the little fella in half. I tried to get him out nice and neatly, but that didn't work out. Anyways, I'm going to cut, not hear me, I'm going to cut. I am going to try to wash out these roots and see what I can and cannot cut. What should be cut now and what should be cut later. Because this could be a situation where we're taking this in parts. So let me go wash this out and let's come back and take a look. The roots are washed, and what I'm seeing is that this comes down here and comes around, and it stops here basically. And then I have this coming around and it comes over here. This is what this is here. So this is part of this. So what I want to do is, and I'm looking at them, this has a root here. So I'm going to cut here to encourage this. And on this particular guy here, I'm going to cut across here because it's a big guy. So let me get the tool and let me cut this. All right, so I have my ratcheting pruners and I'm going to take my time. Taking my time. Moving these feeder roots out of the way. And I'm going to try to cut this guy here. Yeah. And that has been cut. And it's connected to a root inside here. So I'm going to cut that here. Releasing this fellow. And what comes off with him? Just this. Cool so far. Now, I'm going to come back here now and cut this guy back here. Yeah. Right, removing that. And then what I'm going to do now is I am going to cut back all these, because as I mentioned, I want to create a nice radial root system. So everybody that in a bad space going to get a little dealing with. Yeah, so let me go and do that. And when we come back, we will take a look at it. As you can see, how much I removed for a first time cut. Some really very big fellows that was circling, and they practically lying down in the same, almost the same position that they were in. And this is what I am left with. I left a lot of roots on the tree still because, as I mentioned, this tree has some age and I want to give it a fighting chance to grow. What I will do is douse a little bit of rooting hormone on it when I am putting it into the pot to help encourage the roots and to come out. And let me see, this is a little long here. I'm trying to also flatten the root base a bit without overdoing it, at least for now. The next time we could go back a little bit further with some of these roots. Now I know I have some stuff that sticking up here. Well, not sticking up, but they're high up in the grand scheme of things, when really and truly the root base should be ideally from here. But I could plant it accordingly and countersink some of these to make some kind of sense, So that is that. Let me get rid of this and let's get to potting this tree up before it turns absolutely too dark for me to see anything. What is it? Make sense, Ed? So this, my friends, is the pot of choice. It is finished but unfinished because the pot has not been painted. This is a concrete pot that I got by Kenny Ali, and it has just been primed. But I will paint this at a later date. Right now, I'm excited to get this into this pot. Is it deep enough? Yes, I believe it is deep enough. So I'm going to put down a base layer of soil, and from that base layer of soil, I'm going to apply a little bit of rooting hormone on all these cut ends, pot this up, and put this one side and dice the end of that for today. Okay, so I'm placing the tree into the pot, and I'm putting it off center just a bit to compensate for everything else. A little bit more off center, should I? Yeah. So that is a good space for it. I'm going to apply, as I said, some rooting hormone to some of these tips. As a matter of fact, let me just sprinkle it in the dirt. Nothing much to talk about, just to increase the chances a tad back. And there are a couple of roots that are just a little too high. it may leave a little bit of a void to the back, but there are roots down below that would help to create that flare and that radial root system that we want to get. And I have to make sure that all of the roots are down into the soil, has full coverage. All right, so this is it. I've finished potting it up, and for those who might want to know what soil mix I'm using, it's a combination of potting soil, which has perlite in it, but I added more perlite, and as a manure, I'm using rabbit manure in this. Unlike other manures like chicken and horse and cow and so forth, rabbit manure could be used basically immediately, and it has good benefits for the for your trees. And there is sharp sand mixed into this as well. So this is it, my friends. Let me bring you in closer to see the full thing, and then we go call that a day. So taking you in to the base of the tree, and we have going around. This is the back of the base. As you can see, I removed some very, very high roots that was not meeting the the base. Hopefully I get some more roots. I could probably mound up the soil a little bit higher to the back there to encourage something. Or I could have just leave it and mound up the soil and hope for the best. Now that I'm thinking about it, but I don't do it already. Coming around and back to the front. And this is the base of the tree. And the top, as I said, I would have removed a couple of dead end bits, some previous cut points, cleaning them up a bit. And there was a branch that was going across at this point here that I removed. And I'm going to leave, I could probably take a little snip back on some of these long branches, probably trying to, not probably, with the hopes that as they start to sprout out, it encourages more back budding so that we could have defined pads and spaces where the growth is coming out. Should I have leaned it a little bit? No, that is, it's not too late. I'm watching this now. Let me pause for a cause here because I might have to change this angle. So what I did is that I turned the tree just a slight, ever so slightly, so that you can see the two trunks coming up, and the trunk behind is not totally hidden. At least the start of it is not totally hidden. So I twisted the tree ever so slightly, and I gave it a little lean this way, a slight lean, so that this part of the trunk wasn't so straight because it was straight. So it has a little lean, which I think is better. So now I could water it and put it on the side to grow. Whilst I had that, and I don't know if I could do this while I'm holding the camera. Could probably cut back. Hoping that I do. This is not such a bad move. Cut this back just a bit. Because parrot's beak, or Gmelina as we know it, is a vine. So I'll cut it back. Let's see if anything else is what we want. I'm tying up my words because I'm tired. Let's see if I get what I want. And what I want is a lot of backbudding and a lot more options. As I said, this branch is something to think about. I want to cut this back here to try to see if I could encourage this as well to backbud. But this is it so far, my friends. Let me know what you think in the comments. You know the usual, like, subscribe, comment. I love the comments. Share. You know, and as I usually say, as I off camera, unfortunately, be good to yourself, be good to others, treat people how you want to be treated. And remember that our climate is our responsibility. We have an opportunity to change it for the better. If not for ourselves, let's do it for the future generations. Yeah? So, I will see you all soon. And I have a little project coming up with that little house in the back there. I had a thought today, and I remembered something, not exactly what Nigel Saunders did, but there's something that I want to try with that. You know, so I will see you all soon. Take care. Bye.